Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, 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 everyone. I'm so glad to be back. While I am sorting out tech, could you please put in the chat where you're calling from or where you're joining from? Let's get the chat open so I can see you. Yeah, I am excited to be back with another monthly live. So, yes, keep popping in the chat where you're calling from. And if you're meeting me for the first time, my name is Maureen Chiana. I'm the CEO and founder of the Mindsight Academy, founder of Mindsight Women's Network, host on Lead to Excel podcast, and owner of Mindsight Store. And all the links are below in the description. So do check out our store and do check out my podcast. And I'm going to be talking a bit about the podcast later today. So if you can hear me clearly, please just let me know in the chat that you can hear me clearly. If someone could just put in the chat, yes, can hear you clearly, that would be amazing. Thank you very much. I'm just looking here to see if we are live on. Okay, yes, we are live on LinkedIn. Perfect. No, 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 no. We don't want that sound. Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah. So please pop in the chat to say, oh, perfect. Thank you so much, Grace. Lovely to see you. LinkedIn user, thank you so much. So where are you calling from? So lovely to see you. I think I recognize Grace. I think I know who you are, my darling Grace. So good to see you. LinkedIn user, love you loads. Thank you for dialing in. So today, our topic today is your expectations are sabotaging your success. And here's the reason why, or surprising reason why. This is one that I'm really looking forward to discussing. And it would be great if you can all just join me in the chat. Comment, questions, however you want to play this, let's do it. And please, 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 if you've not subscribed to my YouTube channel in particular, please do subscribe to it. Whether you're listening on LinkedIn or Facebook, it would be so good if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel so other people can also find this podcast. So other people can find this video. So that would be great. So today, this topic actually came from the Mindsight Women's Network. We launched, first year get together. I launched the network last year, and we had our first in-person get together, which was a mini retreat. I think it was 2 weekends ago. And this was a topic that kind of came through when we met together, expectations. So I've decided to carry it on. We're going to be going deeper into it in the network. But today, I really want to touch on it so that, you listeners and viewers can also take something away and become more aware and in control of your expectations you have of others and the expectations others have of you as well. So let's get started into what we're talking about today. One of the quotes that I love about this is, you don't see the world as it is, you see it as you are. And this is a quote by Anais Nin. I'm looking in here. Oh, perfect. Oh, I can see you, Eunice. Oh, lovely to see you on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. It's really weird that LinkedIn comments don't come through to where I'm launching from on StreamYard. Really bizarre. So if you see me looking down, it's because I don't want to leave our LinkedIn users out. And so good to see you there. Thank you so much. I'm frozen. Am I? Oh gosh, I'm not sure why. Um, I'm not sure why, but I hope it's clearing up. It's so weird. If I keep freezing, Eunice, come join us on on YouTube. That might be easier. I think there's a link somewhere. I might pop it into, I'll pop the link into LinkedIn, the YouTube, what's it called, into LinkedIn to help. That might help. I'll just pop it in there anyway and see if it makes a difference. Eunice, it's so good to see you. So let me just bear with me for 2 seconds and then we'll get this going. I'll just pop it in and then let's see. Where are you? Let's get this going. Once I do this, then we'll get into the discussions. I'm really excited about today, actually. I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm gonna put YouTube link into LinkedIn. Oh, yeah, so that if it does, if it keeps stalling, you can join us there. That might be easier. Okay, so let's get this going. So this quote, you don't see the world as it is, you see it as you are, is a good reminder of what actually happens in the brain and the impact it has on us. And I want to kick us off by asking a question. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word expectations? If you're happy to share it in the link, that would be great. Oh, Eunice, excuse me. Okay, I see you. You've actually come through. So it's you that's come through into StreamYard. Oh, that's fantastic. That is the first time that's happening. That's good. Okay. No, that's awesome. Okay, she said I'm back now. Okay, so I can just look here. Oh, that's great. Technology is an interesting one, isn't it? So, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word expectations? If you can just share that in the comments. For you, what does it mean? So, one of the things that always, when we talk about expectations, one of the things I always say is, if you find, or you've probably wondered a few times why you keep hitting a wall, and this could be in your personal life, it could be in your personal goals, it could be maybe you want to lose weight, maybe career performance, or even stress levels. The truth is that it's nothing to do with your work ethic or the fact that you don't desire to achieve the goals you want. It's something that is far more subtle, and it's the expectations. It's your expectations. And a lot of times, these expectations end up sabotaging your outcome or sabotaging your ability to achieve the success that you want. So Grace says, let me pull this up here. So Grace says, expectations, what is required of me by someone else. Oh, I like that. I like that. So if you've got other if you've got other definitions, or what comes to your mind when you talk of expectations, pop it into the chat. Let's see. I'm interested to know your view or your take on this. And I'm just going to pop this up to remind those who are coming in to just tell us where you're joining us from. So I'll start with a story. You know, I love my stories. So I want you to just picture that you're sitting in a cafe waiting for someone to come. You know, you're meeting a friend there, you're sipping your chai latte. Chai latte, I love so much. So you're sipping your chai latte, waiting for your friend to arrive. And as you glance around the room, you overhear two people at the next table talking about their day. One of them is fidgeting, visibly stressed, and just saying, or rather, visibly stressed, saying to the person that she's speaking to that I've got a huge presentation coming up next week, and I just don't know how I'm going to go about it. And I feel I'm going to do so badly. I just have this thing in my mind that is going to go so wrong. I'm never good at these things. I don't do well in presentations. She sighs. shaking her head. Meanwhile, her friend leans back in her chair, taking a sip of her own iced coffee with a smile. I'm nervous too, she says, because I've also got a huge meeting next week. But I'm looking forward to it because I want to show the senior leadership team how I can contribute to achieving our strategic goals and demonstrate the value that I bring in driving our vision forward. Now, here's the twist in this story: they're both in a cafe. The presentations haven't happened, but both of them are already living in a future that they've mentally created. One of them expects failure, while the other one expects success. And the interesting thing is, both of them are probably right. It's interesting, isn't it? We do this all the time. We script our outcomes in our own minds before we've even taken the first step. And then we wonder why the outcome we desire is different from the outcome that we get. The deeper question, though, is what expectations are you carrying with you into your own challenges? And I just want you to just take a minute and think about this. What expectations are do you have? And I'm just going to pick up this chat again and see what's coming through. I can see a few people have responded. Eunice says, pressure to succeed. Interesting. And that's so, I like that though, because most times when you have these expectations, there's that added pressure. For example, these two ladies that we are speaking, you can see how that expectation, especially for the first lady, is a problem. It's real pressure to succeed for the other person as well, but the interpretation is then different, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. Hey, Ifoma, great to see you here. Nicholas, oh, so lovely to have you. An expectation to overperform. Ooh, I like that. An expectation to overperform. Mm. And as these are coming through, I want you to kind of just kind of see how everyone has a different view or perception of expectations. And this is why it becomes so important for you to take away today what you want or how you're going to be managing expectations that you come across in life, because they're always there and will always encounter them. Dr. Blessing Enakimia, I see you. I place my expectations on myself. Oh, I love that. I love that. And I would want to know more about that actually. We're going to dig a bit more into all these things that are coming back. So, that question, what expectations are you carrying with you into your own challenges? Really interesting. Now, the interesting thing is whether you realize it or not, your expectations rather they are not just predictions, they're instructions to your brain and your body. So you can see the different things that are coming through: overperform, expectations on yourself, the expectations that the two ladies that we're discussing in the coffee shop, we're talking about those expectations of doing well in a presentation, not doing well in a meeting, or not doing well in a presentation. The interesting thing is they're not just predictions. A lot of times we think that these are just predictions we have. No, they're actually instructions to your brain and your body. And they can be, and really that's what makes the difference, or will make the difference between you sinking or soaring. So the instruction that you give relating to that expectation is what will determine the difference between succeeding or failing, sinking or soaring, surviving or thriving. It's the instruction you give. So the other thing that comes to me when we talk about expectations is the fact that and this is what I'm really going to focus on today. It's the ability to change how you think about things, your ability to change your thought process. Because the story I started with is that they're going to do similar things. One is a presentation, one is a big meeting. Same thing. They're both presenting something. But while and probably still having the same symptoms, which is nervousness, heart palpitating, heart beating fast, shortness of breath, same symptoms, but just the narrative is what separates them, the thought process. So let's look at that. And today I'm going to use emotional intelligence to really help us understand and dig deeper. So, as I really get into the teaching today, if you've got questions or comments, pop them into the comment area. This really helped me to direct the talk, but it also personalizes it to you, because what I'm doing here is really giving a generic talk. So if you ask questions, I can go deeper into the aspect that really relates to you. And if you want to even go deeper, you're invited to join us in Mindsight Women's Network, because this is something we're going to be working on, Shelley, through October, November, getting ready for the end of year and the beginning of a new year. And you're going to see as we go through how expectations has a huge impact on a lot of things you do, like I've just mentioned. So please pop your comments, questions, or any, if something jumps out at you, put it into the comment area as well, because it might be something that you've picked up that somebody else hasn't picked up. So let me take you back to when I first decided to set up the Mindsight Academy. And while I start this story, I want you to just make a note to yourself that when we finish this session, you're going to listen to my latest podcast. This is a podcast with a difference. Normally, I am talking solo, or people are or I'm interviewing people rather on my podcast. I have people on as guests. But this time, the table was turned and I became the guest on my own podcast. And Dr. Blessing Enakimio, who is here, interviewed me, and we went deep into a few of these things. So go listen to that podcast. It's a good one. And I've got the link in the description on YouTube. But if you want to know, I'm going to put the link later here. It's Lead to Excel podcast. You can listen on Spotify or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Lead to Excel podcast. So when I first decided to set up the Mindsight Academy, it was a time when online learning platforms were not as common as they really are today. Many people preferred the in-person. And I remember sitting at my desk, overwhelmed by doubts and questions. Would people trust an online academy? Could I really offer the same impact as in-person training and coaching? What if no one signed up? These were a lot of the thoughts that were going through my mind at the time. The idea of running a completely online platform felt very risky to me. Many people in my network were skeptical, and rightfully so. And part of me started to absorb that skepticism as well. I began to expect the worst. Low engagement, technical difficulties, which can occur all and did occur as well, and a struggle to make the platform sustainable. How would I do that? These were a lot of the doubts that came up. But then I realized that my own expectations were actually shaping my approach to setting up this network. I was already anticipating failure even before I launched it. So I made a conscious decision to shift my own mindset at the time. Instead of expecting setbacks, I started focusing on the possibilities. I started focusing and thinking and asking the question, what if the platform opened doors for people who couldn't access in-person training? The platform would also give people across the world the ability to learn. Because again, at that time, emotional intelligence with neuroscience was quite new, still is. There's a lot of research that is still coming out that many people don't know about. Again, the other thing I was saying is, what if it actually became a space where lives were transformed? We are able to reach further than I can ever imagine. And you see, once I changed my expectations, everything shifted. I was able to now work on on the academy, create the courses without the block that I was experiencing before, without this procrastination of putting it off. Okay, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. And that was what I was doing. I was putting it off before, but once I changed the expectations, the mindset, the thought process, I then approached approached the challenges that did arise, because a lot of challenges did arise. I was able to approach these and deal with them, enabled to overcome the roadblocks that would have really crumbled or stopped me from even doing anything further. I invested more energy into building, creating, and creating really life-changing courses. Excuse me. And that's when the momentum really started to build. Slowly, the academy grew, and the impact has even been greater than I could ever have imagined. So, looking back, the key was reframing my own expectations. If I had continued focusing on the what ifs of failure, I would have given up, which I really almost did. So instead, I allowed my belief in success to shape my actions. And that's what made all the difference. So you might have a similar story. You might have something that you're putting off or afraid to do, or you've talked yourself out of doing because of the expectation. Expectation, like someone mentioned, to overperform or outperform, overperform, can be crippling. Why? Because that tends to be the frontal right part of the brain when we activate that high serotonin. And when you do that, that ends up crippling you, because what happens is that the subconscious brain, that is always there to protect us, I always say this, then kicks in, and it comes up with narratives of, like I said, what if it fails? What if it doesn't go well? What if it's not as good as it should be? All the what ifs start coming out, and the brain does this to protect you from failure. The brain does this to protect you from what it perceives as a threat, because those narratives have become threats to the brain. The new thing that you're trying to do, or the challenge you're experiencing, is probably causing uncertainty in the brain, or causing pressure in the brain. And the way the brain the way your brain protects you from that is to keep you away from it. So this is why these expectations, or the narratives we give them, become really important. So let me see if there are any comments or questions coming through. If anything stands out for you, please interact with me. Okay, I can see things coming up here. So, Blessing says expectations versus faith. Okay, I like that. I'll come back to that. Could you come back, ask me that question again, or remind me about that question if I don't answer it as I go through? Let's see, we're encouraged to be expectant. Isn't that an expectation? How do we know when we are walking in faith versus placing expectations? Okay, similar questions. Okay, I'll come back to that in a second. Let's continue. Hopefully I'll answer, but I want to go a bit deeper into that question. I like that. So, what are expectations? Expectations are mental predictions that we make about future events. So, those mental predictions we make about something, they don't just influence how we think, they determine how we feel as well. So, as you think, they then bring about an emotion. And I've talked about this in previous sessions we've had, that when you have a thought, an emotion is created around it from our emotional brain, which then drives our actions. So that when you have these mental predictions, what they then do is create an emotion around that mental, around that narrative or prediction that then impacts on your bodily response, your physiology, and then it drives the actions that you take. So these invisible forces are more powerful than we can realize because our emotions are so strong. And it's what goes on, as the emotions arise, they then create or enable us or equip us to take a specific type of action depending on the narrative, so that the actions you're taking are not just by chance. They're actually driven by that thought and emotion that has been created in your brain. So there's a research that athletes who were taught to interpret pre-game nerves, you know or rather, let me put it this way, they were taught to interpret the nerves that they have before the games as a source of energy. When they did this, they experienced a measurable boost in performance, as opposed to similar situation where students who were going for exams, same same pre-exam nerves, same symptoms, with them, they interpreted the same physical sensations, racing heart, sweaty palms, as signs of failure, that they were going to fail, that they hadn't studied enough. This then resulted in a poorer performance or worse performance. So athletes, and again, there's the research with the athletes and the ones taking exams, where there were controls done, and there were significant differences in the performance of both. So same situations, different narratives, different outcomes. So it wasn't the ability that changed. The students that were going for exam had great ability as the ones that were left to just feel the emotions, give the narrative that maybe this exam was going to be difficult, and then they ended up not achieving well, as opposed to the ones that were told that the pre-exam nerves were actually because they had studied, and they had studied well, so it was the body getting ready to perform well, so that those nerves were actually activating their brain to keep them focused so that they could remember and do well in the exam. When they had that narrative, they actually did better than the ones that were just left to feel their physical sensations and interpreted some of them the way they wanted, and the others they had given a negative narrative to. So it wasn't the ability that changed, it was the expectations of the outcome that was the difference. So expectations really impacts on our body's response. And one of the key areas that I want to discuss is relating to stress, relating to weight loss, and we can then look at things like sleep as well, and then I'll just go, see what comes through from your questions. So physiological responses such as fast heartbeat, shallow breathing can either enhance or hinder your performance. So the symptoms are literally the same, but they have a different outcome depending on the narrative you give. And it's how you expect these signals to affect you. So if you see them as signs of failure, then your brain activates your threat response. But if you view them as fuel for success, your brain then primes your body to perform at its peak. Really interesting. So your brain is constantly listening to your expectations. And that's why I always say be very attentive to what you're thinking, but also be very attentive to what you're saying. Very important, because your brain is constantly listening to your expectations. If you expect stress to break you down, it will. But if you reframe it as a resource, you unlock your potential to thrive under pressure. So it's not same situation, but just the narrative you give it. And this can also be applied to even burnout, which I don't have time to get into today. So the other aspect is stress. Most people are conditioned to see stress as harmful, But emerging research suggests that when you view stress as something that can help you grow, your body responds differently. In fact, it's been discovered that people who see stress as a tool for performance experience fewer cortisol spikes. So we know that when the emotional brain is activated, one of the key areas that are also activated is the adrenal gland, that releases adrenaline, and then cortisol is also released to your muscles to enable you fight or flee. So, but what we're saying is that in a situation where you're stressed, but you interpret it differently, it can actually, you find that you're experiencing fewer cortisol spikes. Cortisol is good to help us with focus and attention. But the problem is, especially in chronic stress or prolonged stress or ongoing stress or repeated stress, cortisol is being released consistently into the blood, which then makes you can create anxiety and also start impact on cells that can then start creating disease. So and things like cancer have even been attributed to it. That's why you say that cancer has been attributed to stress. But you see, somebody can actually be experiencing stress with a different narrative and not have, and actually have fewer cortisol spikes, so not actually be impacted. It won't impact on their health. Can you see the difference? So this is so powerful in terms of what you expect, what you say, what your narrative actually determines things. And this research actually went on to say that when people change the narrative or create a more positive narrative relating to something like stress, that they actually can have higher levels of growth promoting hormones. So they don't only have lower cortisol spikes, but actually go on to have higher levels of growth promoting hormones, which then enables you to keep going to achieve the results that you want. So this then comes back to the aspect of how emotional intelligence can help us here. And emotional intelligence actually helps you monitor your response to stress by paying attention to what you're saying. So instead of letting stress hijack your brain, so instead of having that amygdala hijack, so where the emotional part of the brain, the amygdala, literally hijacks the brain, and when it does that, it shuts down our thinking brain. Why? Because the emotional brain is that scanner. So when information is coming in, it's scanning to see if this is a threat or a reward. And if it's a threat, then it goes into action. You see, so one of the things to remember is, instead of letting stress hijack your brain, pause and reframe that narrative, reframe it so that it's something that is then going to help you. Reframe it as a sign that your body is gearing up for action to help you carry out something positive, to enable you achieve a positive outcome. Say to yourself something like, this stress is helping me stay sharp and focused, as opposed to, this stress is going to make me flop in this presentation. This stress is going to make me do badly in this meeting. This stress is going to make me fail this exam. So changing that narrative is so important, because when you do, your brain listens, your emotional brain then relaxes, it calms down, and you're able to then think through the response you want or the actions you want. So the other one I'm going to talk about briefly is sleep. And I'm doing this because I've just been away, and because of the time difference, my sleep pattern was all over the place. So one of the most recent surprising findings is how much our expectations about sleep, for example, affect our performance. The truth is, worrying about sleep is more often or more harmful than the lack of sleep itself. So you hear people going, I've not slept. I'm just, my days, I didn't sleep well last night. My day is just going to be so crap. I'm not going to be able to focus. If you expect a bad night's sleep or if you expect a bad night's sleep to ruin your day, your brain will fixate itself on that belief and make it true for you. So one of the scriptures that I love, Shelley, when I find myself struggling to sleep, is Psalm 4, verse 8, which says, I will both lie down in peace and sleep. For you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety. So this just reminds me that, you know what? Peace and rest come from trusting in God. This verse, and it just helps me reset my own mindset, and to help me and influence the quality of my sleep. But also remembering that if I still don't sleep well, you know what, that the next day I will function very well. And for me, it's functioning really well in the morning. I might be tired in the evening, that's fine, but in the morning I will do all that brain intensive cognitive work I need to do. So instead of stressing about getting a perfect 8 hour sleep, focus more on creating a restful mindset, like that verse says. So even if you don't sleep well, tell yourself, I can still have a productive day. This shift in expectations would really, really help you mitigate things like fatigue or unproductivity through your day. So it's really important to focus more on what you're saying. Don't accept things because it's the norm, because that's what people say and that's what happens. You take that control. I always say it's important to take the control back. The last thing I'm going to talk about, because this is an exciting one, but I can't go into details here. So but it's something you can research further. If you're in our network, we're going to go into this deeper. Weight loss. Expectations even extend to how we perceive food, which is interesting. A lot of studies have now shown that when people believe that they're eating something unhealthy, their bodies respond by increasing stress and storing fat. So, for example, you might pick, for me, it's panorazon. And I always felt that, you know what, if I eat this panorazon, it's so much calories. I'm just going to put on the calories. And when I do eat it, I start feeling so guilty. Oh, I've put on, I've eaten all this, I've eaten this panorazon. I shouldn't have eaten. Why did I eat it? I feel so bad. What then happens then is, because I've given it that narrative, the body, our physiology ends up then, because it's a stress, the worry, the sadness, the whole thing is creating a stress response, which then makes our physiology go into action. It impacts our metabolism, and then the body ends up holding on to the food. So you end up storing the fat instead of burning it. But this research showed that when you have the opposite narrative, that okay, this panorazon is nourishing, it's fine, I'm just having one, it's something I do, I enjoy having once in a while, and I eat it, enjoy it, you know what, the body, the metabolism increases and it burns it, and it doesn't stop, hold on to that fat. It's really interesting. This research I just found so fascinating, how what we're thinking impacts on our metabolism. Really, really clever. And those who believe that they're eating something nourishing, even it actually creates better digestion, better energy levels, even when the food is exactly the same. So next time you eat, check in with yourself. Ask yourself, are you feeling guilty? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling stressed? Reframe your meal as fuel for your goals, not as a source of stress. This simple mindset shift will help you achieve long-term health benefits. The way you expect stress, sleep, and even food to affect you directly influences how your own body, how your mind respond. So by reframing your expectations, you can shift from sabotage to success. And that's so powerful. So, and one of the key ways to do all this is awareness. And that's where it becomes so important to improve your emotional intelligence. Awareness. And it's asking the questions: am I expecting stress to break me? Do I assume that poor sleep will ruin my day? Am I expecting my diet? Am I expecting this diet that I'm doing to fail? Because if you do, the first panorazon you eat will completely derail you. The first bite of cake you take will completely derail you. But when you have a focus that this diet is going to work, even when you then go and have your panorazon, like me, it will not derail you, because in fact it will actually have the same impact that it was having when you were having your salads. So these beliefs may be working against you and silently creating an outcome that you don't actually want. So think of an area that your expectations are holding you back. Write down the limiting belief that is associated with this as expectation, and then ask yourself the question: is this really true? Or is it just a story that I've been telling myself? Or is it a story that I have inherited? So next time that you feel stress creeping in, or maybe you want to do something and you find you're getting stressed, pause and say to yourself, this is my body preparing for success. A simple reframe can make a huge difference. So I'm going to look now on the chat and see what we have coming through. What stood out for you? What has it even raised more questions? Let's hear let me hear from you. So I'm going to go back up here. Oh, I love this. Next time I eat a fat slice of cake, I shall remember that. Exactly. Exactly. And you see, the thing, Grace, is that you're not going to be eating cake, consistently all the time. It's a treat to yourself, and it's okay. you know and it comes back to the why am I, maybe you're on a diet, maybe it's starting from there. It's creating the narrative. Why am I on the diet? What's the reason behind it? And because that makes a huge difference, so that when you then have that piece of cake, please do have that piece of cake. It's so important. Because the moment you target unhealthy, that's a narrative, and that's a narrative that creates stress. Then what your body does, your body goes into action and tries to hold on to it. So, and there's more to this research that is just fascinating. uh, so let's see. Blessing says, I have a positive relationship. Yeah, I know you do. I have a positive relationship with cakes and tea. My expectations are very positive when they're in front of me. Exactly. And you see, the thing about it is, it's in anything you're doing, it's coming back to the why of doing things. Eating the cake is because I enjoy eating cake, but doesn't mean, and I know that cake probably has a lot of sugar, a lot of things that are not good, are not good. So I won't do that in excess. But when I do it, when I do have it, then I'm going to really, I'm going to enjoy it. And the fact is that because of that, you find that you burn that cake, you actually burn the ingredients down better. So and so that your body is not holding on to the bits that you don't need. It actually gets rid of what you don't need and uses what you need. So it's not storing it as sugar or storing it as glucose. You're able to burn it off because your metabolism is high. So it's not storing it, it's burning it off. Really, really powerful. So I'm going to go back. Okay, let's see. Let me go back. Okay, Nicholas, let's see what's it. Exercise is something I like, but I've lost the motivation to do it lately. I think it's because I've lost my what. Exactly. That why is so powerful. I can't even overemphasize how powerful why is. This year in the Women's Network, we did 90 days goal setting. And I really talk about the importance of how we set goals, because a lot of times we do it so wrong. You want to set goals, you start writing goals, and it's the wrong way to do it. To set goals, you need to go back to the beginning, and that's self-discovery. And in there, that is where you discover the why. It's asking those questions. Why am I doing this? Why, who am I, first and foremost? And that's that self-discovery, the awareness. And before you even come to the why, but that why is so powerful. Once you establish the why in everything you're doing, it makes a huge difference. And there are people that I know that are going on something like a diet and cut off everything that's, in fact, just end up just eating plants and vegetables, literally. It's not even sustainable. And the moment you then take that first bite of cake and the body holds on to it, what happens? The dopamine starts, it's activated, the reward, and it wants more. Then you go for the second bite, then the third one. The interesting thing is now, because my husband loves croissant, so he buys croissant all the time. That croissant can be looking at me and be looking at it, and for me, my treat is panorazon. So croissant can be looking at me, I'll be looking at it, and we don't have any relationship. I can ignore it. But sometimes I do take it and eat it and enjoy it. And I tell myself before I'm having it, you croissant, I'm going to enjoy you so much. And my body's going to break you down so much that no fat will be stored. And I'm enjoying it. And I do. So please, yes, go back, Nicholas, find out your why, and set yourself, and start small. Start with small steps. Don't go full blown into the exercising. It maybe start with 2 days, 3 days, 30 minutes, and just build up. But each time reminding yourself of your why, the benefits, and the reason why you're doing it. And that why has to connect to your emotional brain. If the why is just on your conscious brain, it's not going to last. It has to connect to your emotional brain, because our emotional brain is so powerful. So I'm going to come up now to that original question about faith and expectation. Expectation versus faith, what's the difference? And then I think there was another one. We're encouraged to be expectant. Oh, sorry, let me put this up. We are encouraged to be expectant. Isn't it an expectation? It is an expectation. And what we're saying is, I'm not saying don't have an expectation. No, it's what expectation are you having? Remember the story I started with, the two ladies? They both had expectations. One was expecting to fail, one was expecting to succeed. They're both expectations. So the key is having a positive expectation, a beneficial expectation, not a limiting expectation. That's the difference. So you've got to be expectant, but what expectations are you having? How do we know when we are walking in faith versus placing expectations on others? Now, this is quite deep, and I'm not sure if I'll answer it, because it's, with this, I'll really probably need to go deeper to understand, to get some more insight. Now, one of the things about faith is believing what you don't see. Same thing as an expectation. As an expectation. So you're believing in things that you've not seen as, to happen. And this is faith in God, that that this is what you're expecting, and God has given a promise that you're going to get. I think there's something I put here under banners. Let's see if I can find it. I made some notes that I was going to pop up. Let's see. Um, no, I didn't. No, I don't think I did. So when you have faith about something, it's a belief that, okay, this is something that you want to achieve. And then go back to scripture. How does it link with scripture? What is God's promise? What has God said about that thing? What has God told you personally? And that is faith, is believing that you will achieve that thing, or you get that thing, or it will happen how you want it. Now, placing expectations on others is a really important one. And Blessing, you were in the retreat when we discussed this briefly. The thing about expectations on others is so important. We do it all the time. Recently, I had that experience where I was expecting someone to do something a certain way and disappointed when it did not happen, and immediately had to stop myself. It's my own expectation of the person. Now, I have no control over anyone. So I have to manage my expectations of people. What I was expecting of the person was quite high. What the person delivered was quite low. And that's probably where that person is. So I was the one having a different expectation, expecting that person to match my own expectation. No. And this is where it becomes so important to manage our expectations of other people, because you have no control over other people. You have no control over what people think. You have no control over what their experiences or how they interpret things. The way I interpreted things in that situation so different from the way that person did. So what she delivered or what she did was so different from mine. And this is why it's so important when you find yourself saying, she should have, he should have, stop yourself instantly, because those kind of expectations create disappointment, create frustration, can damage relationships. So it's important to manage those expectations, and it's you managing your expectations of other people. And it's because you can, they are who they are. So you can have conversations with people to say that this is, you thought this would happen, but even in that, you've got to manage it, because communication is another big one. And I always say this: the way we communicate as human beings, we tend to communicate the way we are wired. But don't forget that that thing we're saying is landing on a completely different wired brain. So they'll probably hear it differently anyway. And that's why some people can be in conversation and be saying completely different things. Completely. Happens to me, or it happened to me. So I know. So I hope that answered your question. But if not, put in another question, a deeper one. I can go deeper in that. Let's see. Nicholas says it's sometimes challenging to align beliefs and actions when the expectation and goal are things you don't care about. Yes, I agree. Sometimes challenging to align beliefs and actions when the expectations, if you don't care about the goals and expectations, it will be challenging, because what drives a lot of expectations is our subconscious brain. So that when you create the narrative, it gets stored in memory, and it's that memory that will then enable you take an action, or the narrative given it will enable you take an action. So if you don't care about it, your emotional brain, one, will prevent you from doing it, and your subconscious brain will prevent you from doing it, because it doesn't matter to you. And that's why I said previously, Nicholas, that when you're creating your why, it has to connect with your emotional brain. If not, your subconscious brain would move you to your default, to what's already wired in the brain, which is probably not what you want. So aligning beliefs, basically, it's your beliefs that will drive your actions. And these beliefs are in the subconscious brain. So there are things you probably don't even think about regularly. And but they will continue to drive your actions. They will even drive your expectations. And that's why this session today, what you need to take away with is that commitment to yourself, that you're going to start being very aware and in control of what your expectations are, so that you can achieve the outcome that you actually want, and not achieving the outcome that is coming from what's been already wired in your subconscious. So this is really enabling you take that control back of your brain, because a lot of the way we are wired are things that we didn't even wire in ourselves, either from our upbringing, from experience, from what we take in passively. You can be sitting down in conversation with people and they're saying things and you're just there listening, probably thinking of something else. It's going in. So if you don't consciously pay attention to what you're taking in, it will drive your actions. It will even change your beliefs as well, because as it gets wired, especially if you keep listening to the same thing, it will become a belief of yours. It could even become a value. And that's why when people say, I want to be my authentic self, I always say, who is that? Who is your authentic self? What is that? What is authentic to you? Because what you're saying is authentic might actually not be what you want it to be, because it's a wiring, and it might not actually be the value or beliefs that you want. So I hope that makes sense. So love the idea of reframing. Yes, yeah. Reframing is it's so simple, it's so easy, but so powerful. Honestly, so powerful, so powerful. So yes, keep reframing, keep reframing. And let's see what we have here. So I have a positive relationship. Okay, I've done this. Exercise we've done. Oh, Deborah, so lovely to see you here. How do you relax your mind at night after meditating on some scriptures? Life issues that overwhelms you and causes lack of sleep. Great question. One of the best ways is, that scripture I showed you. It's even that one, you can just stop and dwell on it, and just dwell on the fact that God has given me peace, God has given, and just relax in that. It's really meditating. You know how one of the key ways of I meditate is I just see myself in the presence of God, not thinking of anything, just there basking in his image. That Psalm 23, it says that, can't remember it now, but just where you're just there in God's presence, just in his presence. Sometimes I even think of Psalm 23, where I'm lying by the streams of water and I just listen to the waves and I'm just in God's presence, just appreciating him. What you're doing is calming your mind. So you've taken off the focus from the challenges, the life, and you're focusing on God's peace, on God's blessings, on God's grace, on God's promises. And in fact, you can even think of the challenge you're having and bring it, where it says bring your worries and concerns to him. Create a narrative of the scripture relating to that challenge, and just be there enjoying it, visualizing what you want, visualizing what you're believing God for, visualizing that outcome that you want. That's the mental rephrase, so that you're able to and just sit there calmly. And when you do, you're more likely to go to sleep peacefully. But your brain will keep trying to go back. It will jump around. Keep bringing it back, keep bringing it back. And you could do that for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however you want to do it. And then just stay there. In fact, to sleep, just stay there. I meditate every morning. I just stop 10 minutes, and I started with 2 minutes, and just stay in his presence. And you can do it at night to really help you drop off, or do something that relaxes you. Is it a drink or you want, or something that really calms you down? Find out what works for you. But the important thing is that your emotional brain is calm, your conscious brain is calm, and you've got to give it something. So give it a peaceful thought process, or something that calms you. Play music that is calming, play waves that are calming, something that calms you, that will help you. Oh, Queen, great to see you here. Thank you so much. I never knew the extent to which expectations could stand. Oh my goodness, my dear. Expectations it can be a huge obstacle to a lot of things, a lot of things. Hi, Juliet. Should our expectations be smart? They are better to be smartest. You know what I mean? Smartest. Yes, yes. Expectations, again, you see, it depends on what they are. It depends on what the expectations are. Expectations to enable you achieve a goal, they do need to be smartest. I'm saying smartest because we've got an acronym that we add our EST at the end, and the E is emotional. So, and this is why I keep saying a lot of times when setting goals, they need to link up to, you need to be, connect to your emotional brain. So depending on what the expectations are, the key thing is that they're empowering, they're positive, and they will help, they're enabling and not limiting. So, but relating to goals, yes, they do need to be smartest. So from now on, when I eat anything that I shouldn't eat, I will enjoy it and not stress myself with an expectation that it will help me. Yes. Ifoma, so good to see you. Yes, yes. Enjoy it. You might as well enjoy it because you're eating it anyway, and then you can get the benefit of the metabolism and the nutrients of it or that are in it, instead of eating it and then worrying about it and then storing it up as fat. So you might as well enjoy it. But then the question is, do you want to be doing that all the time? The answer is no. Why? Why don't you want to be doing it all the time? That's a question you need to answer, so that that will help you to be, to be quite, to do it in moderation. Do you see? So I think there are more here. Let's see. Beatrice, hi Beatrice. Beatrice says, if you've not listened to my podcast with Beatrice, please go. Lead to Excel podcast. There are quite a lot of podcasts there that are so good, but go listen to my podcast with Beatrice. Hi Maureen, I'm enjoying this presentation. Thanks for the precise answers to the questions. You are most welcome. Good to see you here. I said, what's the difference between faith it till you make it, in it, and fake it till you make it? Okay, so faith it till you make it and fake it till you make it. Basically, with faith, it's a trust in God. So you're believing, you want something to happen, and you're trusting that God will enable you, will make it happen because of the promises that He's given us. And there's something that I think I put it on the to pop up here for us to see. It's a scripture that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4, I think it's Philippians 4:13 or 4:19, I can't remember. But I can do all things. And this is where my acronym of Become Limitless really came from. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That means that with Christ, I can achieve anything as long as it's in line with God's will for me. It's in line with scripture. I can do all things. This helps me to reinforce my own learning and managing my expectations and overcoming challenges. That it's not my strength, it's the strength of God, because through Him I can do all things. So coming to your question, the faith is really, it's not even about me. I do the actions, but it's God that blesses. It says by His grace. So I can do what I'm doing, but it's His grace that enables me, and that is the faith. Now, fake it is a very conscious thing. It's almost like I'm just going to pretend that I'm keep doing this till it works. A lot of times with fake it, the narrative around it is what determines the result. The interesting thing is this, and this is my view. Somebody that is saying fake it till you make it and actually believes that they will make it will make it. But someone that is doing fake it till you make it, that then, the subconscious is really telling you, you're faking it anyway. Those narratives that come up, what if this happens? And you believe it, then you're going to get that expectation. It will be fake and it will not happen. So can you see the difference? The difference really comes back to the narrative. And what, in terms of the expectation, what are you expecting? With faith, even with faith, if you have faith and still doubt, it's the same thing as fake it till you make it with doubt. So I hope that makes sense. And then Grace says, another great session. Oh, thank you, my dear. Thank you. So pleased you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe and share. And if you want to go even deeper in this, you're welcome to join us in Mindsight Women's Network. Registration is still open, but it will close soon because we're getting ready for something big in preparation for 2025. So registration will close soon. So do join us if you want to really understand this, because what I've done here is giving you information which you can take and start running with. But the truth is, this our brain, the emotional brain and the subconscious brain are so powerful. So this is where the help of you having me as helping you, coaching you, but also the other ladies really makes a huge difference to enable you achieve this. So I do recommend you join, or even just go onto the Mindsight Academy and find courses. A lot of the courses go through this in depth, especially our emotional intelligence for leadership course and soaring higher toolkit really help you. One of the other things, and last thing I'm going to touch on before we go, is the power of visualization. So once you've identified and reframed your limiting expectations, it's time to now build new empowering ones. Start with small, actionable steps. Like I said to Nicholas, start small. So, for example, if you tend to expect failure during high stress situations, practice visualizing yourself succeeding. And this is where, similar to what I've just said in response to Beatrice's question, that faith, the Bible says that when you pray, believe you've received it and you shall have it. And I think it was in Jeremiah, it said, what do you see? So, it's seeing, visualizing the success when you see it. And this is where meditation comes in, Deborah, so that when you're going to bed, in fact, if you can lie in bed and visualize yourself sleeping, dreaming, having a wonderful night's rest, and before you know it, you would have got you find yourself, somebody will hear you snoring. So visualize the success you want, because when you do, your brain believes that image you've put. So keep repeating it. And because your brain is believing it, it's wiring as memory. Your subconscious will then make you start carrying out actions relating to that to what you're visualizing, to that image. It's so powerful. So visualizing the success you want is so important, because our expectations are habits of thought. So by applying these skills, these tools, actually awareness, visualization, reframing, it will enable you break the circle of self-sabotage, circle of procrastination. They become habit. It becomes a habit for you. Will it be easy initially? No, it will take work. Why? Because you're overwriting something that is already written in your brain. So, or you're creating new pathways. So it does take time, just like exercising, just like driving a car. It's a learning process, but you can do it, because we can do all things. That's the key. I can do all things through Christ that stretches me. Spot on. Exactly. Thanks for a brilliant session with your pearls of wisdom and faith. Oh, thanks, my dear Eunice. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ifoma. Thank you. So please go now, live your life managing your expectations, framing them so that they're really beneficial to you. We've done so much on expectations today. So please put your comments, even as you're learning, and you're having results. Come back here and pop them into the comment. That would be so wonderful. Because remember that your expectations are not just mental assumptions. They shape how your brain and your body respond to different things. So the fact is, you have the power to change them. So go and change them. Remember, your success begins in your mind. Change your expectations and you change your own reality. Thank you once again for joining me. Now you go out and create the success that you deserve. Have a wonderful rest of your month, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you so much, Juliet. Thank you so much, Queen. So lovely to see all of you here. And put this in your calendar, first Saturday of the month. And I'm going to, next month, I'm going to announce something different we're going to be doing. We're adding to this. Oh, thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you so much. Stay blessed and keep expecting intentionally. So have a wonderful time and see you next month. Bye for now. Oh, thanks very much. I enjoyed it. When is it? Next one is first Saturday of the month in November. I can't remember the date, but I do this every first Saturday of the month. So yes, you can join us first Saturday of the month. Um, I'm not sure of the date, but subscribe to the channel. Once you subscribe, you get a notification. Thank you, Queen. So second of November. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much. Lovely. I'm going to end the session now and see you all next month. So see you 2nd of November. Bye for now.